the F back. I almost cursed again, and I'm trying so hard not to another episode of Dead or Alive, woo! Where we have different creatives come on and tell us 3 people they want to meet dead or alive and why. Today we have an artist who is friggin' phenomenal.
Some say the artist. The only one.
Wiley, the artist. Never mind. That was a bad joke. Probably you've heard his music. I would say if you live in Atlanta and you pay attention to music at all, you've heard his music. It's the best. You know what? Actually, what I'm gonna put in this video is the song that he made when he said our names.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't know that you were putting that out
the next day.
Yeah, because we had seen it in the studio. Yeah, I was like, damn, that song's so fire. Like, wow, I wonder if it'll ever come out. And then he's like, single out today, and I just name dropped. And I was like, wait, what?
That was one of those songs where I made that song and then I wanted to put it out immediately.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'll just make a song and I'm like, this is really dope. I just want it to exist already. You know, it really sucks. As with musicians, I mean, everybody. Probably most people that make any kind of content or art or whatever can relate to this, but especially musicians, a lot of what we do is making really cool and then really cool stuff. Can we curse on here?
It's okay.
Is making really cool stuff and then not putting it out for months and years at a time. And it can get really annoying. So you just have to practice patience. But yeah, with that one, I was like, I put it out immediately. And I showed it to you, I think the day after I made it. So it was really, you know, I'm just that prolific.
I'm dead. So it's Wiley from Atlanta, guys. Woo!
Sign language clapping.
How you living, bro?
I'm living really well. I mean, if you mean literally today or the last few days, we don't have... The last year, I mean, it was one of the worst years, right?
Yeah,
2020, it was really terrible. So this year has not been so bad. The problems that the adversity we've faced so far this year is nothing compared to last year. Although we don't have heat in our house right now, so that's been kind of because can we curse on here? Because this morning it was freezing in the house. It was 37 degrees. I mean, last year was really it was hard for me for a lot of reasons, and we're gonna pivot to getting real really fast.
Oh my God.
But no, I mean, last year was just, I think everybody had a lot of stuff they had to deal with last year. You know, everybody also had to spend a lot more time typically with your family, and a lot of people lost relatives last year, you know, whether or not, I mean, everybody loses relatives every year, but especially, you know, my family, both my grandfathers died last year.
So sorry.
It not from COVID, just happened to be last year. But it was really just you know, one bad thing after another last year. So part of me, I'm actually really grateful that I didn't really put much music out last year. I put one song out, but just for the sake of not having a project that I think about 2020 when I listen to it, you know, I mean, it was a messy year. I'm also glad I didn't put out a project where I couldn't perform it, because I think that's a big thing that's exciting about a new album is performing it.
Facts.
Not being able to, can I burp on here? Not being able to perform is I mean, I guess it's hard to describe, but most of us that make music, performing is such a crucial aspect of what you do. Also because it's so different when all you can do is like put stuff online and interact with people online.
Right.
There's none of that like crowd connection. And I mean, anybody who makes music will tell you like performing, I mean, I think it's like 9 times out of 10 how new people find you and like connect to you on stage. And like you can have a live set that is really unique and interesting and maybe even different from how your music comes across to people when they're just like listening to it. And you see someone perform it, it's like, you know, it can add a lot of depth to it. So it's been really hard. I mean, also just for the sake of like, I mean, we've been friends for a long time, and we've been playing shows together for a long time, and all these kind of people that we know, you know, in Atlanta, around Atlanta, whatever, we really have this like kind of, you know, community that goes to these shows, and like there's people you want to see at shows. So it gets really hard. I don't, you know, like there's people I haven't seen in a year, because like when would I have been able to see them? And most of the time I would see those people would be at shows. So I think it's really like crazy, just from that angle too. Like it's funny because 2019 was like, I was starting to feel like maybe, like I was like, scene is different. Like there's a lot of like young kids that I don't really know, which is not to say that's a bad thing. I think it's cool. Like the scene, you know, changing. It's always going to change. There's always going to be like a new wave or like new kind of core of performers who are like young and kind of up and coming. But 2019 was like the first year where I started to feel like, you know, just a little bit kind of like, have I like aged out of, not of performing in Atlanta, but just of specifically like that, going to every show, scene, and like networking. When you kind of get to the point where like, you know everyone. So it's not really like you're going for networking, you're just kind of going to hang out, which I think is great. But then you start going to shows to perform and you're like, I don't know anybody here.
You're like,
and it's like, wow, maybe, you know, maybe we're at that next whatever it is. But I think Atlanta is weird in that way because there's all these different like waves or whatever, or like so-called kind of like cliques or moments, or but everybody like kind of knows each other. And then Atlanta is also weird because it's kind of like gatekeepy in a way, like just in the sense that like I think people are very defensive of success here in a way that's different from other cities, where it's like if you're successful in your field, in Atlanta, it's not as common to be like, well, let me kick game to you. Like here, you know, like, and I'm not saying like people are looking for handouts. It's just like, it's weird. Like in the last couple of years, there's been some like articles and stuff about our scene that's like, oh, it's this great community where everybody's friends and they all collaborate. And I'm like, I mean, I guess like.
It was like that for a while.
It was like, there was a minute, you know, when I was like 18 or whatever, like 2016, 17, 18, like that time period.
That was the best.
Yeah, it really was like that. It was like we were all friends. We all like wanted to see each other succeed. I'm not saying we don't still care about one another in that way, but it's definitely not like a tight-knit group where everybody's like hanging out all the time, which seems like that's kind of the like for whatever reason, it's almost like publications were years too late. So now they're saying like, oh, all these people are really tight, and it's like, well, we all kind of do our own things now, and like have, you know, I think everybody still roots for one another for sure, but it's not as much of a like, let me make a song with so-and-so, let me make a song with so-and-so. You know, I think that like back in that time period, like, it was really just like you wanted to work together. Exactly.
Like make a song and everybody just like like a vibe, and now it's kind of like, okay, nice to meet you, kind of. But not really.
Well, I mean, and also, you know, Atlanta is a place where like everybody like feels famous. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially like I went to Georgia State. I know you went to Georgia State. I transferred to Georgia State kind of late, so I feel like I sort of missed the window when like all of y'all were going. But I don't know. Oh yeah, that's true.
I transferred
but I was just like if you walk around Georgia State's campus, it's like
everyone thinks they're
rapper, producer,
famous, literally.
entertainer, YouTuber. Like you can just tell. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just something about the way like kind of people carry themselves and whatever. So it's an interesting element.
Whew. Speaking of the music scene and all this stuff, I know you didn't really put out that much music last year, but I know you're working on new music right now because you have the Wiley new album, which I look for.
Which
you have more followers on there than I have on my normal Instagram, which makes me feel like a square. But you know,
that's fun. Hard. I didn't know that. I'll make that my bio.
More followers than Taylor 2 Wavy.
I think Wiley. I actually think that idea is like. A stroke of genius, you know. I don't always feel that way about my ideas, only like 99% of the time, but that specific idea, I was like, kind of smart because, you know, it's just really like, it also coincided with like Instagram's algorithm being really terrible. And I felt like I tested it. I like posted on Instagram every day for like a week.
Yeah.
And it was literally like, you know, the likes would go down significantly each day. Like it was just like, and then randomly
so
one would do well, but then they just keep going down. So I was just kind of like thinking about that. And I was like, I don't know. It wasn't even so much in my head. It was something to like build hype for an album as much as it was like, I need like a place to post things where I can just talk to people who like my music. Because there's people that follow you on Instagram that like hate when you post about music. Like people that know you from other things in life. I mean, everybody that makes music, at least in like an independent, like underground type of way, can relate to the fact that like if you post a picture of yourself, it'll get X number of likes. If you post a picture of like your new single, like, it'll get half the likes.
20 likes, there you go.
People are just like, oh, for the love of God. You know, like people are just like, they don't want to support it. Obviously, they will support it when other people support it. I mean, the kids in my high school, like, I mean, maybe deservedly, but like on me for years and then like were never supportive. And then as soon as like, you know, a few of my songs started getting widespread attention.
You went to my school.
Yeah, no, literally. I mean, people are like girls on Tinder because Pink Skies is the song in their bio, and they're like, you know, yo, me and that dude like played baseball together.
I can't.
I'm just like, I mean, I don't even have a Tinder.
I really can't. If you guys could see everybody in the background right now, everybody's face, and he like sitting there, everybody's like, wait.
The Wiley new album Instagram, you should definitely follow it if you're interested in seeing and getting an inside look into kind of the at the genius behind some of your favorite songs, like
You're laughing, you don't even believe what you're saying.
What's one of my songs? Pink Skies, Demo, It Rains, Paper Planes. The list goes on. They're all hits. And if you want to kind of see a little bit of my process and a little bit of what I sort of do day to day, how I get myself in the headspace to make such great stuff, Wiley new album is a great thing to follow. You know, you can just sort of get to know me.
Follow
on there. It's not really a Finsta. It's more like a behind the scenes look into, you know, it's like the artist is present. You know what I'm saying? It's just like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Follow Wiley new album on Instagram right now. No, like in all seriousness, follow Wiley new album. All right, man. Who are 3 people, bro, that you want to be? I was really excited to hear your answers because I just feel like
Okay, so while Dead or Alive. While I was sitting here, I was thinking it'd be really funny to have one of them be God, because like, who knows? You know what I'm saying?
I like them.
It kind of checks both boxes and also doesn't. But then I was like, that's extra. So instead of doing that,
no, it's not.
I would say my first one would be Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Because obviously, everybody knows who Nicolas Cage is. He's had a very confusing and complicated career. But he also happens to be in 2 of my all-time favorite movies, Raising Arizona and Moonstruck. If you haven't seen those 2 movies, it'll really change the way you feel, or maybe it won't, I don't know, but it'll really make you look at Nicolas Cage in a different way. Also, he's Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. So his real name was Coppola, and Nicolas Cage was Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. I'm pretty sure. So he saw like one of his movies and he was like, that's not acting. If you want to see acting, like book me for an audition or whatever, like let me audition. And Francis Ford Coppola was like, whatever, you know. So he did audition for, I should know more about it if I'm gonna do this whole like tell a story thing, but he changed his name so people wouldn't just think he's just like the son or the nephew of a famous director, that's why he's successful. But he has genuinely, like, I can't think of an actor off the top of my head who's been in more terrible movies and amazing movies in their career. Like, it's very, very strange, and I think he would be fascinating to talk to. It'd be really interesting to know, like, why his career has kind of taken this track, and like just sort of absorb stories from him. I feel like Nicolas Cage is such a like cultural figure for us now, where he's kind of like just exists outside of his movies, that we don't really think about the fact that at one time he was like the hottest actor in Hollywood and was in like brilliant movies and was giving amazing performance. I mean, if you watch Moonstruck and Raising Arizona, you're like, how did this guy not win Best Actor like every year? You know, it's really amazing. He's practically like going method for those roles, not in the way like Jared Leto goes method. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was really embodying the character, you know, not like sending condoms to his co-stars. So the next one is not Jared Leto. Nicolas Cage that's number one. Okay. Right?
Oh, I guess God was like the honorary mention. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to count that. I just wanted to get that joke off, but not actually use it as one of mine. So yeah, Nicolas Cage is number one. Number two, Freddie Mercury.
Ooh.
I just love him. I think he's brilliant. I think he was amazing. I think he's like one of the best performers. I think he's a super underrated performer. I think when we think about like legendary sort of frontmen, you know, well, at least for me, I mean, maybe it was just that I didn't really grow up listening. Like my parents didn't really listen to Queen, so I wasn't really exposed to him when I was younger. But I think he's often overlooked. Like, it's the kind of thing, I mean, a lot of people, like when they saw the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, you would have this kind of like, he made that song and that song and that's, you know, you sort of forget that he, like all of these hits that Queen had were all the same group. Same album. Like, it's really fascinating. So yeah, I think he's one of the best performers ever. I think vocally, he's one of the best vocal performers of all time. I think like his, you know, he's right up there to me with Stevie Wonder as far as someone who has such a like unique vocal tone and like approach and how they perform, where it doesn't always have to, you know, like Freddie Mercury rarely would try to make it sound like the record or whatever it is. And it's almost the kind of thing where you would kind of think it was silly if it wasn't so cool. Like he's so like operatic in the way he does it in like kind of a goofy way.
That's a very good answer.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm loving these.
So yeah, that's my first two. Okay. So number three, I'm just not thinking about it, but I think I would have to go with Dave Chappelle.
Oh man. Yes.
He's just like, you know, one of the greatest comedians of all time. God. Definitely the greatest, like, still working, active comedian. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like Eddie Murphy is great, but Eddie Murphy doesn't do stand-up anymore. Right. So it's like, you know, Chappelle is like still out here
doing like actual
still great. Like, and I was actually just talking to David, possible future episode, about Dave Chappelle, and he was talking about how like nowadays it's almost like he doesn't even bother with the jokes in his stand-up. He's just sort of like, I'm just saying real, you know.
He really is like just talking to the audience.
Exactly, because he used to have this bit, I don't remember where he talked about it, but he was like, what's really sad is that I can't even say some real if there's not a punchline after it, because in his stand-up he always has to like, he'll say something that makes people kind of go like, and then he'll be like, but here's the joke. And it kind of like releases the tension, right? He's really good at that. Like saying kind of borderline things and then making you understand where he's coming from. But I just think he, not only because he's a great comedian and a really brilliant, talented person, but because he, you know, famously went through one of the most intense like contract dispute kind of artist getting over by their you know, the company that they're technically like working for, situations. And he also kind of had like a up close and personal experience with the way that like the media will paint someone as a lunatic or a drug addict or whatever, when they, you know, when things aren't like, when things are happening behind the scenes and like the, celebrity is like, I'm not sure I want to be a celebrity,
right?
Or whatever it is. The
Let's
media
follow you around.
exactly will really like run off with that story and try to make it into something else. So I think it'd be interesting to talk to him for all those reasons.
Oh my God!
But I just think he'd be brilliant to meet. You know, it's like when you think about Dead or Alive, it's kind of hard because my instinct was like all three I was gonna pick were gonna be dead because it's like, that's your only chance to meet them, right? So like picking Alive people is like, I might meet Nicolas Cage for some reason, you know, like, so I didn't want to waste a pick on it. But when it boils down to it, like, I just think they're so interesting. But honestly, the only real answer to this game is Jay-Z. You're not gonna get
a billionaire's brunch, bro.
Would you rather have
5 people so far? This is the most anyone has given.
Would you rather have dinner with Jay-Z or $6 million now?
Did you guys see that? Somebody's like,
or 4 Bitcoin.
Would you like an 800 credit score, or would you like $2 million?
Exactly. Oh, those are great. And people are like, whoa, imagine what I could do with a good credit score.
Well, do you know what I could do if my credit score was 800? I could buy a house. Are you kidding me? You know what you can do with $2 billion? Your credit score.
Also, what if you get the lunch? What if you get like dinner with Jay-Z and then he doesn't pick up the tab?
He's like, out of here. You pay for this.
You know, like what if he was just like, I gotta bounce. Sorry. Yeah. And you're like, why did we eat at this crazy expensive restaurant, Jay-Z? I had swordfish and I can't afford it. Thank you for the promo also. These are not for sale. But there will be other merch for sale. As you can see, this one's signed.
Basically, I'm going to sell this on eBay when
I inevitably make it. Yeah. Don't name
Wiley, you got anything you want to say to the people before?
I just want to say to the people out there that thank you so much for allowing me to be on this show and for giving me the platform that would allow me to be booked on this type of show, and for listening to my music and making me rich, because every time you stream one of my songs on Spotify, I mean,
I get $100,000.
I get paid. You know what I'm saying?
If you don't know how streams work, every stream equals $100,000.
At least.
So stream Wiley from Atlanta today.
Go listen to my music. Go follow Wiley new album. Follow me on Twitter. I don't really understand why more people follow me on Instagram than Twitter.
Because people like to see people's lives. You like to see them.
I think it's because I'm not that funny. You know, like when you're on Twitter, like you think like your tweet is funny, but then it gets like one like or something.
Me, it's like nothing. I'm like, let me delete.
And you're like, is that and like the like is from your other account?
It's a Wiley new album.
Do you ever get a like on Twitter from like a bot and you're like, is that Kevin Durant? You know what I'm saying?
We're closing this out.
You never know.
Making jokes though.
Seriously though, huge thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you.
And on some real, I take my music very seriously, so follow me on everything. Wiley ATL, Wiley from Atlanta, SoundCloud.com/WileyATL, TikTok.com/0004XY, P2007DY. They gave me one of those generic usernames, but you'll find it if you search that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
for being on the show. This was very entertaining. I
had a great time.
All right, that's usual, the normal thing. Subscribe to the channel. Please like this video if you
ring that bell.
Ring that so you can get the post notifications.
Should we do a bleep off real quick? Should we just? You have to bleep all of.
Doesn't even. That was bad. I don't know. That didn't sound right from my mouth.
She just said. See, it'll all be bleep, so.
Do you kiss your mother with that mouth?
This is terrible. I'm out now. Bye, y'all. Thank you for watching.
Peace.